And then just one more for good and fun sake. So it sounds like we're applauding each other.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Ooh, I hit my mic on that one.
Yeah, why'd you do that?
I wanted to.
Why
Don't
did
tell
you do
me
that?
how to live my life. Don't tell me how to live my life. All right, welcome to... What a great start.
Public space travel. Public space travel. And so on and so on.
I can't help but believe that in the future we'll see throughout the world an increasing trend toward the next logical step. We'll achieve full communism.
Public space travel. Public space travel. And so on and so on.
Welcome to the Public Space Travel Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Lazarus. With us today is Luci. What is in your world-famous recipe again?
1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of salt, and big heaping bucket full of human blood.
Delectable. Excellent. And our other co-host, the shadow producer himself, Mark. Mark, is it true some areas are better for sea anemones than other places?
That's what I heard from all of my, blanking on the name. Biology people.
Nice.
Those people
Excellent.
that do sea biology.
They do sea anemone stuff.
Yep, sea anemone.
Sea anemones.
See an enemy, hear an enemy.
Excellent. Well, today's
Marine
show...
biologist. There it is. Found it.
Today's show, we're going to be talking about ideology and culture and connecting it all together with the Super Bowl ads, which we'll be checking out and doing some commenting and a public or social critique. So, in regards to ideology, what do y'all think about that? Let's kind of just open the conversation before we dive in. What do we think ideology is? What are your reactions to that?
I classify as belief. Belief one has, whether it's religious or political. Things that sort of like hold the fabric of one's reality together.
Mm-hmm.
I'd classify that as like an ideology.
I agree.
That seems pretty much how I would view that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. What's interesting is when it comes to ideology, it's kind of born from this contradiction, this like material study of the immaterial, like the ideas. And that ideology is that group of intertwining beliefs, kind of what you guys were saying, that make possible certain kinds of cultural consensus or knowledge. But precisely because it's everywhere and nowhere, ideology tends to disappear into things that make it possible. And so I kind of want to raise this theme today that we'll be considering while we watch the Super Bowl ads, this kind of cultural common sense. Things that don't need to be articulated, discussed, or justified, just because, they appear the way that they are. That's just the way things are. Case closed. It becomes kind of this common sense, if you say will. In doing so, I think it has kind of like this sense of mystification. Specifically, there is this, if you any kind of appeal to common sense or real work is itself thoroughly ideological. So there's kind of this paradox going on. And I think we've discussed this off the podcast a couple times, all of us, but it's kind of like this thing, if you don't agree with this kind of thing that's understood as, everybody knows this is the right thing. You're basically viewed as like something wrong either with you or with your thought processes or your ideas itself.
Yeah. And then in some cultures, it's like if you are sort of going against the main ideology, then you're seen as like literally like a threat to the fabric of the culture, the society that subscribes to the main ideology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that tucked in with that too, when this whole like you're going to go against the grain and all that, I think that's really speaks to the invisible common sense kind of like attributes or characteristics that are ingrained, because it's still ideology at work. It's like ideology versus ideology in a sense, right? It's like this, oh, you're going against the grain of this larger social fabric and beliefs that, you know, we hold as true. And it's like, you can be like, hey guys, let's put a pause real quick, because you're still talking about ideology. It's so much more invisible, so much more transparent that, you know, we've come accustomed to.
Yeah.
I don't want to make this direct comparison, but it reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watched the anime Code Geass. There's a part where one of the characters talks about how happiness is like a pane of glass. Like, it's always there, but if you have to like really like look for it to see it. And I don't want to like compare ideology with happiness, but I think that there's some like
yeah, well, it's like I was watching some videos of Zizek. Is it Zizek? How do you pronounce it?
Oh yeah, Zizek, yeah.
Yesterday, and talks about, you know, the idea of like people subscribe to the ideology because they're happy to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes you feel good when you're like, these are my beliefs, these are my believies, and I get to believe in them.
Yeah.
And they make me feel nice and comforted, grounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the issue, though, is that I don't think we can ever escape ideology. I think the best we can do is be aware of like its existence and its influence on us, but I don't think you can ever escape it. I don't think you could literally be somebody who's like, I am a non-ideological person. I've been liberated.
Right.
But, you know, like you can insert that Zizek garbage can quote.
Put on these glasses or start eating that trash can.
I already am eating from the trash can all the time. The name of this trash can is ideology. The material force of ideology makes me not see what I'm effectively eating. This precisely is the ultimate illusion. Ideology is not simply imposed on ourselves. Ideology is our spontaneous relationship to our social world, how we perceive its meaning, and so on and so on. We, in a way, enjoy our ideology.
But, you know, like, that's a perfect analogy of it. I guess it's just more of, like, are you explicitly aware you're eating from the trash can? Or is it just, like, it's the norm? I don't know.
Yeah, that's some of the things. I feel like I spent my whole life trying to escape ideology, and then you realize, like, you don't have to, but, like, it's so difficult to escape, like, the ideology that you exist in or are born into. Like, it has to be acknowledged in some way or another, even if you really, really don't want to. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the awareness, obviously, that's a good start to breaking from it, if you can.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and that was kind of some of the things we had talked about before off the air. But yeah, I was, you know, born in a household that was, you know, very anti-gun, very, I guess you could say a pretty mainstream liberal household. But, you know, when you begin to talk about some of those points that are really contrary, you get some strange pushback. And I've noticed that it's very defensive. It's not like you know, let's really like discuss this and see. It's actually more of like the ideology becomes embedded in the personal identity of people, so much so sometimes, not I'm gonna say for everybody, for sometimes, that it's almost like it's a personal attack against someone's character or culture or group or whatever.
Yeah, like they feel like you are threatening their livelihood.
And I think that's
like when you're a kid. I think
that's like yeah.
Or like there's like the whole thing, like when you're a kid and you have a question, you're like like mommy, why is dad always like gone on the weekends? Like, what's going on? And they just like, shut up, don't ask questions, and just get really mad instead of answering the questions and like letting you investigate or like talking things with you. They're just like, no, I'm shutting this down. This will go no further. We will not engage in discussions about ideology. I don't want to question my faith. I'm having a hard enough time as it is.
How dare you say Pluto is not a planet? That how dare you? I have been born and raised.
You gave me 2 extra steps of thought today that I didn't want to have.
I ain't got time for that.
The mental gymnastics alone that you placed upon me is just a good enough reason for 2 whippings.
Oh, oh my gosh. Yeah, and maybe we'll go more into this specific topic, specifically about the discourse of ideology later on in other episodes, because I think it's fascinating that, ideologies are these ideas that influence and create situations where people will act and think and feel in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I think, and again, we'll talk about this in other podcasts, but the kind of the conditions historically for certain things to kind of come up as what is accepted as common sense, what is accepted as good, what is accepted as, more importantly, truth with a capital T, and what determines knowledge for typically, a larger body or entity that therefore is given more power. I think those are things that we can talk about, but reeling it in here, let's talk about ideology in the Super Bowl. You guys watch the Super Bowl? I didn't this year because I kind of go with Carl Sagan on this one. I don't really want to watch people running around in pajamas, but
I did.
Oh yeah, you were forced to.
Sort of.
You were salty.
It wasn't so much being forced to, but
Don't look away. Don't look away from the screen.
It was both.
Was it like Aladdin?
Disinterest on my part in mostly, or in pretty much all parts of it.
Did you say, is it like Aladdin?
Yeah, when the magic carpet ride, and she's like flying through the air, and in that song when it's like,
whole new world.
I can show you the world, and then she tries to cover her eyes because they're like flying through the air on the magic carpet, and she's like terrified, and then the guy comes and reaches behind her and grabs her hands away from her face, and he's like, don't you dare close your eyes.
Oh, I don't even remember that, but yeah, Mark, was it like that?
No. I wasn't.
If you're in immediate danger, just blink twice.
Right. Yeah, so it was interesting just to see, in I don't know, the statistics on it, but I know that a lot of people watch Super Bowl without, really being interested in the game itself, and are definitely more interested in the commercials, and in that way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's just, as far as an entertainment value, it wasn't very entertaining.
So I remember growing up as a kid, I wouldn't look forward to sports because I wasn't just a big fan of watching sports. I'd rather play them. But in particular, the Super Bowl was a time to get A, nachos, because that was a family made favorite. But B, more importantly, you're right, to watch the commercials, right? Because they're entertaining, blah, blah, blah. I'm curious, because Mark, you had put up we have a list here of the commercials that we're going to watch, but there's some in particular that we really want to focus on and keep into consideration the kind of this main overarching theme of ideology, but also the social context of, at least today, February 10th, 2019, there has been a wave of social justice oriented, I would say pseudo, but social justice oriented commercials as a theme. And I'm curious if there's a continuation of it further in these ads, or if there's kind of pushback against it and what that might look like.
From what I had seen, it seems more either they're having no really consideration towards the social justice stuff, or that they used it and sort of appropriated it to probably capture some sort of audience for it and help in their demand creation, basically.
Yeah. So for those who didn't watch the ads, this is a Verizon ad. It's titled "The Coach Who Wouldn't Be Here." I guess we'll describe it in a second here.
Hi, my name is Anthony Lynn. In 2005, I was in a horrible car accident. I was hit by a car going 50 miles an hour, and I promise you I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the first responders. They told me that I flew 45, 50 feet in the air. The doctor told me, so you're very lucky. It was a miracle.
Hi, Coach. My name is Jim Brittle. This is my partner, Craig Kelly. We're the first 2 first responders on scene.
Coach, my name is Skyla Bosco. I was the paramedic on Medic Engine 1 that evening.
They said I had to have some angels with me that night to survive. I believe you guys were angels.
So we had that Verizon commercial. It looked like this coach, I guess an NFL coach. I don't know. They're wearing an
Yeah,
an NFL T-shirt.
The first form of ideology that I want to critique with this is there's no angels, coach. There's no such thing as angels. Don't be a fool.
Well, yeah. Like, so this coach, I guess he had, was it a car accident or, some tragedy, and then first responders come, and then now he's meeting up with his first responders that were there that day. I could imagine it'd be really emotional, like, because they saved your life. I get that. Definitely appealing to that. I like the product placement of how he's wearing the NFL shirt there, because obviously it's for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But some of the things I noticed, this is Verizon ads about connecting and wireless and how it helps first responders, do what they need to do, right? And then the ending thing is, what was it? Verizon serving America, or what was it? Shit.
Well, I think the real takeaway line that they put up was that it was, our job to make sure that the first responders get there. Is their service is supposed to help with them getting the people to the scene, which, it's not 100% untrue, but the big takeaway that I have in the criticisms that I've heard about this was that it's basically just PR because of in the California wildfires, recent fire, I forgot exactly, I think it was in Northern California. I don't remember exactly what the fire was called. They had been the service for the fire department, the firefighters, and the fire service basically ran out of data, and they're using that for, they're using the data, and that's the big thing to take away. It wasn't just phone calls, they were using the data for, GPS and coordinating all of that, and then, they went over and they started getting throttled in a time of emergency.
So you're saying it's a reaction to make them look good, like they need this for like damage control.
Yeah, it's damage control, exactly. And then when the fire people, I don't know, because I guess it's the California fire on the California, the state side. I think, I'm not sure. But anyway, when they contacted Verizon to try and clear this up, it's like, hey, it's an emergency situation. We need this to go unhindered. Like, this is
right.
They basically tried to upsell them. It's like, well, you can buy a better package.
Wow.
That's fucking terrible to profit off of disaster, because that's the time when there's like a increase in demand, but then they can be like, ooh, increase in demand, we'll just up the prices a little bit more, let's take advantage of the situation. And at the same time, with this PR stunt, like, scoop up that, like, hey, our job, aka just Verizon, is to make sure they get it. So if you take our Verizon plan, you're doing the right thing and supporting us.
Yeah, it feels like this is like a theme with like commercials right now in general.
Yeah.
And like with the Super Bowl, and I guess especially, but just like so many companies are trying to save face with the public, and like, no, wait, we're the good guys, and they just use Hollywood magic to incite emotion to make them look like the good guys, or like they care or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a combination of that, and also being very selective of, cherry picking what makes them look good, because they're talking about first responders, right? So there's like the paramedic, the firefighter. Did they mention a police in there? I don't know, but we'll get into that later. But if this is really a response to the kind of the throttling and data spike, price packaging, whatever, in California, it's interesting that, like, they're talking about first responders, the people who have the job and they're contributing citizens to society, but they're not going to talk about volunteer firefighters, volunteer prison firefighters that are being utilized for cents or $1 a day, that are also should be categorized as legitimate first responders too, especially in the context of the California wildfire. But those are things that they're not going to address. They don't need to mitigate that damage. There's no profit there for them.
Yeah. It's in a way also feels like these commercials, they're competing in the same way that the players are competing with each other. In this space, it's
a
like
meta Super Bowl.
It's like a stadium inside of a stadium.
Ooh. And I think it's fair to say that both are on the stage of the societal spectacle. Like, all of this, at the end of the day, the only thing that should be gotten out of this, at least the main drive to be the main intention for all of this is profit.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you think this Verizon ad ties in with ideology in particular?
I mean, like capitalism, corporatism, like I don't know. It's just like the whole we're a company, and you like companies because you're an American. Mm-hmm. So hear us out. There's like this
ethical
new ideology of like the thing like companies are people, and so like they're allowed to make. I don't know. Like there's an acceptance. I don't know how to describe it. It's just something I've noticed. Like there's like an acceptance with like in the society of accepting companies on this like equal platform as like a friend or something like that.
Definitely like this ethical consumerism, right? That the consumers have a sense of political power with their dollars, and spending it in an ethical way not only makes companies look good, but also makes consumers feel good, right? And so if you can create a narrative that is convincing to people that doing this is the ethical thing, even though there's no ethical consumption under capitalism and realistically, like that's pitted here. That I kind of see a patriotism a little bit. It's like not very explicit, but I still think there's like this. I don't know. Maybe I can't make that claim for this commercial. I'm not sure.
I think there's an appeal to, and you see it in like some pop culture stuff, especially with like the Marvel movies and whatnot, but also just generally in different media throughout. I don't know timeline wise, but just at the very least in the recent past of sort of the heroic. Or the hero type or appeal to that, and I'm not trying to downplay like first responders and at all and what they do.
I'll do it.
You're a hypocrite. You bet you call 911, don't you, when you need a heart attack resuscitation?
But I'm just speaking more to the
do not resuscitate. On my
I try to be logically consistent. I actually call 119.
Exactly.
But I was speaking more about just like the sort of theme, I guess, of a lot of, especially popular media and storytelling of the hero and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think we've talked about that before off the podcast. I'd love to go like deep dive into this, but it doesn't seem coincidence that what is becoming more and more mainstream is this narrative of I am, individual superheroes that go and save people, right? So people can't save people. You have to have like these individual superheroes that are able to do that, right? That pushes that narrative, that bootstrap individual American narrative ideology or whatever.
And it's kind of interesting to think of, or to see, there's multiple people that, in this case, the coach needs to think in that situation, where it kind of goes against a sort of superhero, sort of trope, I guess, of or a more individualistic type thing, or type way of thinking. And although I can kind of counter myself here and say, with some of the superhero movies or whatever, there's multiple heroes and they work together in some ways, but
it's never the ordinary citizen
exactly.
that's
it's not
able
ordinary.
to do.
Yeah.
And it's never systemic things, right? It's
Right.
always some
Yeah, it's sort
other
of
mythical.
superhero evil. Yeah, there
it's
you
like
go.
kind of
Like, so that's my problem with Batman. When I was a kid, I was a huge fan of Batman the cartoon. I loved Batman, had the toys and, the costume. But then you like, as you get older, like you're like, oh wait, Bruce Wayne owns a corporation. And then he goes and fights crime, but it's like,
Petty
it's not like
crime.
systemic problems or like even himself owning a corporation. It's more, petty crime. There you go. Or the entertaining, I'm going to go fight the Joker today, but he just never gets caught,
Yeah.
But
And in that kind of in a superhero story, it's often, the cops or the whoever are not able to help really, or
Right.
they are the ones that are getting messed up, and then the superhero comes in. And
oh yeah, that's
like
right. Like
the,
whenever there's
the
like
mercy
so it's
Yeah.
it's the
of the heroes,
yes,
or in the way of the heroes.
it's the systemic institutions that can't hold up, and it takes the supernatural
There you go.
entity
Yep.
to step in.
Yeah. The other thing too about this
Interesting.
is watching this coach cry on live television just makes me not want to believe in the team or.
Is it threatening your masculinity?
It's not threatening anything. I just find it
No, I'm just
demeaning. I keyed up.
I'd be interested how much Verizon actually, like, I don't want to say, like, I guess collaborates or, like, works in conjunction for and with, like emergency phone services. Because they make the claim our job is to make sure they can get it. Get what? Get, the call for the first responders from those in need. I'd be curious how prevalent Verizon is in that. Because I know that in commercials they make these outlandish claims like, this is world famous, this is the best, or, those kind of things. But this is one that it's like, is it really their job? I guess if they do it like in one place and it's some arbitrary determined number that, hey, we take 10% of the calls, we are involved, like, I guess they could technically make the claim, but it's like, come on. I don't know.
Well, you don't see like the companies that like provide like the equipment that they're using out there promoting their stuff. Like the ones who act like, I don't know, like I just think Verizon's taking too much credit for what they actually do. Like
There you go.
they're just a company that with other phone companies deliberately like throttle internet speeds and things like that to make more money. Like they're not benevolent on any level.
Well, they're providing us great services to a platform, aka the internet, which was subsidized by consumers. What more do you want from them?
I want them to lick at my heels.
You can actually purchase the Heal plan for $11.99 a month.
Oh, is that how much it is? Oh, okay. I'll sign up.
Yeah,
for
it's
that.
our job to make sure your heels are wet. So.
See a need, fix a need.
Okay, shall we move on to the Kia commercial?
We're not famous. There are no stars in the sidewalk for us. No statues in our honor. We're just a small Georgia town of complete unknowns. The closest thing to a world stage is 81 miles away in Atlanta tonight. Our movie stardom, our football careers, they never took off because we are not known for who we are. We hope to be known for what we do, what we build. This thing we've assembled, it has a chance to be remembered. No, we are not famous, but we are incredible, and we make incredible things.
Good God, this is the most capitalist commercial I've seen in quite a while. And it's so depreciating of workers. Oh my God.
It's like the first thing, I actually felt empathy when I saw this because there are those places where people don't care about them. There's actual humans that live there, and they're like, they know how little everyone thinks of where they live, and I, like, as a person who grew up in a small town, it's like I kind of feel that a little bit, like that, the sense of like, man, this kind of sucks. But then they just take it and then they run with that and then they shit all over it with their capitalism.
Yeah, they're using them as like they're like stealing the thunder of the workers.
These small town, just good wholesome American folk. They're using them as gunpowder to their capitalist cannons.
Exactly. It's interesting because like if you listen to the things they were saying, like the conclusions I was drawing that I wrote down here is workers are incredible. They make incredible things, but they're not famous, and they're also unknown. They're the great unknowns.
And that's all they could ever be.
And yeah, they failed.
Yeah.
Apparently failed at everything else. I mean, not everything else, but it says, the things that they might have been dreams for them fell through, so now they make cars.
Yeah.
And the kid is narrating. Do they use child labor or something too? Like, it wasn't really clear to me.
Yeah, that part was weird.
That is the implication that they're failed. Like they're like your uncle that got out of prison the third time and calls you up and is like, I need some money. That's every one of those in that part of the country. It's just someone who tried, couldn't get out, just stuck making cars.
It's interesting because there's no talk about unions. They're like glorifying workers, but only a little bit. Like workers, like labor makes everything in this world, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't want to like go against that. They don't want to promote that narrative in its entirety because you need that like individualistic CEO. I came up with the ideas. I built the company from the ground up, right? Mm-hmm. I have workers underneath me. That hierarchy. They don't want to. They want to continue to promote that ideology, but they don't want to promote like a world or like worker organized ideology too much, even though it's interesting to think about the audiences that are watching the Super Bowl and then they see this commercial, and a lot of people, like you said, they can relate to a lot of aspects of this, but there's only so far that they're going to push. Kia's going to push. It is interesting because like is there actually a Kia factory in Georgia?
I'm assuming so, just because
I'm also curious, like, how much of Kia is actually outsourced, and it's like, how much do these like small town workers actually like create?
It is the only Kia manufacturing plant in the U.S.
And I wonder how much is actually produced there.
Right, like what are they actually making, or are they just like getting the different parts shipped to them and then they just put it together?
Mm-hmm.
Like how much legendary status can these poor workers actually claim?
Oh, that sounds so demeaning and terrible.
That's my question, is how dare they even jump on my television scene and presume, not first of all, to demean my Hollywood starlets and stars. Starting off the bat, already bad start, and then presuming to claim credit for the works that the hard labor of the Chinese workers and third world country workers that probably built most of the components to these cars.
Oh, ooh, good twist. Yeah, good twist. I like that. South Korea's second largest automobile manufacturer is Kia, and it's headquartered in Seoul in South Korea. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd be curious, not to like, the intention here isn't to downplay American workers, and especially not to downplay labor in general. But I think what we're doing here is critiquing Kia for, it's very, I don't want to say speciesist, but it's very like patriotism to like, all right, we're going to pick this select factory in Georgia, and we're going to uphold them as like the American, I guess, dream, but like, small town, city folk, and we're going to give them that star in the sidewalk, as they're saying.
The commercial is basically a country song. If they just had like a banjo and an acoustic guitar in the background, every line by line, and a slide guitar, line by line, that would just make an accurate country song.
We aren't any of those special famous folk.
And then city folk down there with them stars.
I think it's sort of propagating of, because you mentioned like who watched the Super Bowl and then who would relate to that, and like sort of propagating of the sort of worker mentality of, this is just how it is, this is just where I am,
So that's kind of speaking that ideological common sense of like, this is the person I am. And it's like, actually, you're more than that. You really are. Like the social constructions, the social relations tell you you're not famous, that you're just small town folk. And I guess they live that experience, but like, you're still a human being. Like, don't downplay yourself, brothers and sisters.
Rise up against your captors.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
But it's interesting because it's a South Korean based car company, and they're like, we want to sell this in America. How can we sell this to them? So they had to like do some research and be like, what do we think like will relate to these foreigners the most? Like, how can we get their money, take it back to our country? Oh, this seems like a good ploy. They seem to be really into, now anyway, hating the West Coast specifically, and
it doesn't have a liberal appeal.
Right. Like it's like it's just interesting, like when like these like other like or these companies that are foreign based, like what they think of America, like how they market to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also going with that even further, like when I think of Kia, like before I saw this commercial, when I think of Kia, like they're more like, I don't want to say, I guess they're like cheaper, not so sporty cars, etc. But this one, this and specifically this model that they showed in the clip in their advertising, it's kind of huge. It's kind of like a huge like SUV kind of ordeal that, they're really like, we're going to open up a new audience. Let's go for like the man, the family that camps and like the off-roading. Like that's who they're going for this. So I think they're trying to change their image to conform with like social cultural norms that are American, when it comes to cars. I wouldn't see them pulling out a muscle car or whatever, but a bigger SUV.
Also, why does every like SUV or truck commercial have to have a car going into the water? Why is that? Like every single one.
It looks cool, man.
Like, and to show it off.
Yeah.
Gotta go diving in the water. It has to, like, it looks cool. Like it's supposed to look cool, but then there's like a thing at the bottom, like a text that says, "Do not attempt. This was a man-made water place."
Do not attempt. This model car cannot actually do this.
Or something like, I think there was one where it's like, this one has special features that like that's why I can do this, but otherwise please don't try to do this.
Like, it'd be funny if it actually worded that way too. Like, please don't actually do this. Like, yeah, there it is. What is it? Do not attempt. Yeah. Water market. What is it? I can't really read it.
Water stunt performed with aftermarket snorkel. Professional driver on closed course.
Oh, that's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mark. Like, it definitely does look cool, and I want to go do that. But like,
you have to get the snorkel.
I don't know.
First.
Maybe you're revealing my ideology, my aesthetics for the splash. I'm just like, oh, God, look at those wheels. I just want to turn the fucking windshield wipers on.
I think they really misunderstood the market here too, because most people who buy SUVs like take them off-roading 0.001% of the time.
That's true.
Take them to soccer practice, and
it does kind of look like it could be a soccer family / off-roading on every other Sunday or Saturday. I don't know.
Yeah. We're going to brunch. We're going to church, and then we're going to brunch, and then we're going to soccer, and then we're going to football.
Mimosas, baby.
And then we're going back to church because Jesus.
I'm on the site for the plant.
Ooh.
It says more than 90% of the vehicles assembled here are destined to dealerships across America, which accounts for almost 40% of all Kia sales in the U.S.
Wow.
So the 90% made just there is domestic.
90%.
and account just for the domestic
and
sales.
just count for less than half of all sales in America.
So it's not like, meanwhile, in South Korea, and they're like, hey, we're gonna outsource our workers to America because.
Well, I think the big thing is yes, they're not an American company, but with less than like 40% of all sales in the U.S., meaning 60% are imported. And then just thinking from like a carbon footprint type.
Yeah, good.
That's since the vast majority of carbon emissions or global warming causing pollution is from industry and from transport. It just seems like they could do better in that front.
Yeah, so there's kind of like that. There's a kind of a hypocrisy here, right? So we've seen kind of commercials that are selling things, and at least they have like a social justice edge to them. Maybe not in the commercials that we've necessarily watched yet, but like ones that are appearing, recently. But this one in particular, I feel like you wouldn't really see like a Prius ad or a smart car especially ad during the Super Bowl. Like, you're not going to see that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
I don't know.
I actually don't know when I've ever seen a Prius ad.
Years ago, I think I've probably seen one, but not. I mean, not that I watch a bunch of TV, but.
Right.
Yeah, I really.
Me either. I never watch TV. Yeah, I don't.
I don't watch the demon boxes. I don't watch those.
Yeah. This is all speculation.
True.
What isn't? Mark, I think you're gonna have to find the copaganda one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay, let me find.
I'll give you the remote.
I can just give you a link or something.
Chicago has been hit with a major spike in gun violence.
It was kind of our idea to bring everybody together.
We show unity to show that we're not being divided.
We kind of tag teamed and said, all right, let's do something.
And it was just really great to have local police here alongside our kids, alongside the Chicago Bears, to just openly talk and grow relationships with each other.
If they get to know me, then they have an example of a person who was in this community.
What was the message?
That they're doing something.
They want them to join the police?
They're doing something.
That's it.
Making
We're doing
change.
something.
Vague.
First of all, if you grew up in Chicago, especially if you're on the South Side or whatever, you're pretty intimate with the police. There's not problems there for a lack of police presence.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed is that in the clip, specifically, there's like the football players, they're standing and embracing, interlocking arms, right? And they're talking about uniting together. And I saw, I think it was like a white football player and a black football player, in a line, doing that. I saw that actually as kind of an attack on like the Colin Kaepernick taking a kneel, because that's divisive, according to, basically the dominant discourse status quo. And instead, standing embraced, not kneeling is unified, right? Like, it's kind of a little jab at that, like, covertly.
Mm-hmm. And it's from an ad from the NFL as well.
So yeah. So there you go. So that ties it in. Yeah. And then also, like, Mark, I like how you put it as copaganda. Like, this is, cops as people to look up to, as role models. And that's the solution to this is, the community and the police should come closer together and look to the cops as role models, as ways of protecting the community. It's not addressing systemic issues in a sense that I think is like communal, community oriented. I think it's still like this law and order police state, and the solution to that is embracing the law and order police state further. I'd be really curious.
Just join them.
Yeah. And that's how you can inspire change. And
yeah, and it's always like oh, like be like a cop, or be like a Marine or Navy person. It's always like this, all that stuff. Instead of like be a scientist, be a philosopher, be an artist, be like someone who actually gets change done, not just goes along with the status quo and actually changes things. It's like, and then like those things are always like, this is kind of like a tangent, but like those things are always like the idea of like being a change maker, like an actual person who has impact, is reserved for the people who have long since died in the past, like Martin Luther King and people like that, where it's like it's safe to enjoy them from the span of history where we're like, okay, now we can like talk about it, and but also like it's because we're not like, we can't relate to that world anymore. So like there's no ever like notions or talk, because never everybody paying for a TV spot or even funding a TV spot to showcase like alternatives for ways to actually bring about like real positive change. Instead, it's just join the brothers and sisters who are there to help keep your brothers and sisters down.
Exactly, and it's interesting because it's framed as gun violence in Chicago, which, undoubtedly Chicago does have a gun violence issue. However, it's interesting that what's not being talked about here is like, and it's inherent here, right, is this police brutality issue, specifically, racial discrimination and police violence, and that's not discussed
like,
here.
Why do they need to?
Right.
Or what is the root cause
Yes.
of needing to,
Yes.
have the cooperation or whatever that they're trying to initiate, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In an alternate universe, it would be really cool if it was like Black Panthers and it was like inspire change, Chicago gun violence, Black Panthers, and anyway.
An alternate universe we'll never get to live in, unless we were able to inspire kids to actually be smart and be scientists.
Oh.
If people were actually like
solve systemic
were inspired,
racism.
Yeah, which actually reminds me about the other commercial with Carly Kloss for the Wix commercial that I watched. Like, we don't have to watch that one, but like it's kind of disappointing because I saw her pop up in like tech news because she'd been promoting like women getting into STEM and like with coding or whatever it is, and then like now she's like on this commercial for this website that involves no coding and arguably is taking away jobs from developers. It's like okay, so like you're just willing to take money wherever you can take it. Like your message is bullshit. And like what happened to, like, you had like the biggest chance to make the most impact. Like people, you have like millions of followers, I think, somewhere like all over social media. People like you because of the message you've been saying about like STEM and getting kids involved and like young girls involved and all these like academic things. And then you have the biggest spotlight in the world and you're like, I'm going to talk about Wix. Wix is great. You can just drag and drop. You don't have to think at all.
But Victor, please don't criticize my ideology. It's survival of the fittest. She has to do what she has to do to make ends meet. And furthermore, don't you want diversity in neoliberal capitalism? Don't you want more women working for Raytheon? Don't you want more black people as cops?
I'm just a simple, blue-eyed, blonde, beautiful girl. I don't know how to code. I just drag and drop things. And look, my website is all perfect.
Is that what she says?
That's basically what she says. She's saying that by doing what she's doing. She's like, you don't have to try. You can be like me, successful and pretty. And if you're pretty, as in most things in life, if you're good looking enough, just do whatever, and you'll be fine.
That's so terrible.
That's a tangent off of this copaganda thing. But I just hate it because I just hate like all of like propaganda, the military propaganda. Like I grew up with that, like seeing that everywhere. I just get sick of seeing this like let's normalize, or let's good guy eyes the bad guys, like these people who have like people join the military force usually because they're like need. Like I have a friend who joined the military or joined the police force, like almost specifically because she just needed stability. Like she's a single mother, has a kid, and it's just like, this is just the best option for me. And it's not like nothing to do with, I had dreams I was able to like perceive, like these other dreams. Like there's no sense of individuality or like enjoying, because there's a lot of talented people in Chicago that have a lot to offer the world.
Right.
And if they're just given this like ad spot where they're like, hey, we know that there's a lot of problems over there, but it'd be really great for you is if you just joined our side. Like, if you just joined us, we wouldn't have to keep hurting you. Like, that would be great.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's interesting. And I think that some of what you just said kind of touches on, those positions, they hold a monopoly on force. They hold a monopoly on that power. And so I guess assimilating into it, you can reap the benefits, which you need to survive. Don't get me wrong, like I get it. But like, what are you doing to liberate resources for those who don't have that privilege so we can change the system so that it benefits everybody in a more social just way?
Yeah.
I'm
actually very upset about that. I didn't watch the ad before because I didn't have it, but very upset about it because it doesn't, like you're saying, like it doesn't touch on all the different nuances of why there's gun violence. No, like one of the things is that like it's to get simple groceries, you have to go blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks. Like you have to travel so far just to go to a simple grocery store, which is like the basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In some of these like neighborhoods, and like so there's like turf wars over like these areas that have access to like the single most grocery store for miles around. Even there's gun stores. There's more gun stores and liquor stores than there are anything else.
Yeah, that speaks to that food swamp. That they don't have access to fresh food, but instead there's like liquor stores selling your fruits and veggies. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, if people go to the liquor store to get like apple juice or something like that, it's like not real like fruit, just to have some semblance of like, this is the closest thing that's near me. I just need something.
Yeah.
Like people do that.
Right.
Like it'd be different if the cops like out there in the street like giving food. Like, we brought food to you. Like that's like, all right,
to protect and serve. Where's the serve?
Where's the serve?
Can I get a straw, please, sir?
I get better service from McDonald's.
Oh.
The real heroes.
Space Force? I'm kidding.
PST, brought to you by McDonald's, by the way.
Oh, no. Oh.
This whole thing is just like a long con. We're just
yeah, we shit on everybody else except McDonald's. New with PST children's toys. And the Happy Meals. Toys.
A Stalin figure.
With real gulagging action.
Gulagging action.
Oh.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm so out. I'm tired from this outrage.
All right, well, that was the Public Space Travel Podcast. I am Lazarus.
I am Luci.
And I'm Mark.
And we will see you next time in a galaxy not so far, far away. Hit it.
Public space travel.
Don't worry, buddy. You're doing fine.
Public space travel.